Don't mistake her silence for ignorance. That was their first mistake. The courtroom was already warm when Naomi Carter took the witness seat, the kind of artificial warmth that presses against your skin and makes your thoughts feel heavier than they should. She sat straight, hands folded, eyes calm, while the defense attorney adjusted his tie and smiled the way people do when they believe the outcome is already decided. He looked at her like she was a checkbox, not a threat. Like someone who would speak softly, stumble, and fade back into the background where she belonged. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Who are you? And where are you watching from right now? What city? What country? Write it in the comments. And if stories about truth, justice, and hidden strength matter to you, take a second to subscribe to the channel and like this video now, because what you're about to hear might change the way you see the people around you. The attorney cleared his throat and began with a tone polished by years of winning. Ms. Carter, you worked the night shift, correct? Late hours, quiet hours. Mostly paperwork, cleaning schedules, answering phones when no one important is around. Naomi nodded once. Yes. He smiled wider. So nothing that would place you near sensitive decisions or private conversations. Nothing that would require special training or authority. Just routine tasks. The word just hung in the air, heavy with assumption. Naomi said nothing yet. The jury shifted. Somewhere behind her, someone exhaled in relief. This was going exactly as planned. Weeks earlier, no one had expected her name to appear on the witness list at all. Naomi Carter was invisible by design. She arrived after executives went home and left before donors arrived. She moved through hallways that still smelled like disinfectant and money, watching people when they thought no one was watching. The clinic marketed itself as a miracle of modern medicine, a place where lives were saved and reputations polished. By day, it glowed with confidence. By night, it whispered. Naomi heard those whispers because she was there when voices dropped and masks slipped. The night the patient died started like every other. A routine procedure, a sealed floor, security unusually tense. Naomi remembered the way the elevators had been restricted, the way a senior administrator had avoided her eyes, the way she'd been told to skip a section of the corridor she cleaned every night. She remembered pausing, cart in hand, listening to raised voices bleed through a door that should have been empty. She hadn't meant to hear anything. She just stopped walking. A man's voice, sharp with panic. A woman's voice, controlled but cold. If this comes out, everything collapses. Naomi didn't know who they were at first. She didn't need to. She knew fear when she heard it. The next morning, the clinic released a statement. Rare complication. Unavoidable outcome. Tragic but clean. The kind of language that closes cases before questions form. Naomi read it on her phone while riding the bus home, exhaustion tugging at her bones. She remembered the locked floor, the altered schedule, the voices. Something didn't sit right. Still, she said nothing. People like her weren't asked what they thought. Days passed. Then investigators arrived. Questions were asked, but only of the people whose titles looked good on paper. Doctors, administrators, board members. Naomi watched from a distance as truth was trimmed into something presentable. When she was finally contacted, it wasn't because she mattered. It was because the prosecution needed to prove thoroughness. They needed to show they had left no stone unturned, even the ones that didn't look valuable. Detective Reynolds met her with polite impatience. He asked if she'd seen anything unusual. He barely looked up when she answered carefully. He wrote down half of what she said and none of what she meant. By the time the trial began, everyone in that courtroom believed Naomi Carter was harmless. The defense certainly did. Back on the stand, the attorney leaned closer. You understand the importance of accuracy, Miss Carter. Memories fade. Especially during long overnight shifts. Fatigue can blur perception. Are you sure you didn't misunderstand what you heard? Naomi lifted her eyes then, not in defiance, but in clarity. She spoke evenly. I'm sure. A few people exchanged glances. The attorney tried again. You didn't see anyone administer medication, did you? You didn't review charts. You didn't participate in the procedure. No. So your testimony is based on overhearing a conversation you weren't part of. That's correct. He nodded, satisfied. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Naomi waited. The judge didn't dismiss her. The prosecutor stood. Miss Carter, can you tell the court exactly when you heard that conversation? Naomi inhaled. 12:47 a.m. The room stilled slightly. And where were you standing? Outside the restricted corridor, near the server access door. The prosecutor paused. Why were you there? Because that door was left unlocked, and it triggers an alarm if it stays open more than 60 seconds. I was responsible for securing it. A murmur rippled through the room. The defense attorney's smile thinned. Naomi continued, her voice steady, unhurried. I remember the time because the alarm logs reset at 1:00 a.m. I checked them every night. The courtroom felt different now. Not loud. Focused. Naomi wasn't raising her voice. She didn't need to. They had thought she would stay silent. They had thought wrong. The defense attorney stood again, slower this time, recalibrating. He asked about lighting, distance, acoustics. He asked if Naomi could identify the voices. She answered without hesitation. Yes, one belonged to Ethan Brooks, the other to Laura Brooks. A ripple of disbelief moved through the courtroom like a held breath finally released. Ethan Brooks, the clinic's public face, a man whose name opened doors and closed investigations. Laura Brooks, seated just rows behind the defense table, her posture immaculate, her expression fixed. The attorney objected. Speculation. Naomi didn't react. The judge allowed the testimony. How can you be certain? The attorney pressed. Naomi replied calmly, because I heard them speak every day. Because they argued in hallways when they thought no one understood how power sounds when it is angry. Because Laura Brooks said, word for word, if this comes out, everything collapses. And Ethan Brooks answered, then make sure it doesn't. Silence followed, thick and uncomfortable. The prosecutor asked the next question carefully. Miss Carter, after hearing this conversation, did you notice anything else unusual? Naomi nodded. Medical records were amended at 3:14 a.m. The defense snapped to attention. Objection. The judge raised a hand. Naomi continued. I know the time because the server room logs record access attempts. I lock that door every night. Except that night. Someone else went in. The prosecutor approached. How do you know? Because I checked the backup terminal at the front desk. It mirrors activity for security audits. No one thought to erase it. The room shifted again, this time with weight. The defense attorney's voice sharpened. You expect this court to believe that you, a night worker, uncovered evidence professionals missed. Naomi looked at him, not angrily, but plainly. I expect the court to believe what's documented. The prosecutor submitted the file. A screen lit up. Timestamps, access codes, amendments, the kind of truth that doesn't argue. Laura Brooks' composure cracked. Ethan Brooks' confidence drained in real time. The defense tried to recover, attacking Naomi's motive. Why didn't you come forward immediately? Naomi answered honestly. Because no one was listening. Because I knew how it would sound coming from me. The judge leaned forward slightly. Miss Carter, why speak now? Naomi paused, just long enough for the question to settle. Because you asked me to tell the truth. That was enough. The prosecutor rested. The defense had nothing left but noise. When the verdict came, it wasn't dramatic. It was inevitable. Arrests were ordered. Charges read aloud. The weight of consequence finally landed where it belonged. Outside the courtroom, reporters crowded the exits, searching for familiar faces. Naomi walked past them unnoticed. That was fine. At the steps, A young man caught up to her. Daniel Price, the intern who had once asked her where supplies were kept, the only one who'd ever looked her in the eye. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" he asked quietly. Naomi answered without bitterness. "I was waiting for the right room." Later, as the city swallowed the story and moved on to the next headline, Naomi returned to her life. Same bus, same hours, different air. Somewhere inside the system she had bent without breaking, a message lingered. Silence is not the same as weakness. In a world that overlooks people by default, the most dangerous witness is the one no one notices. They thought a black woman would stay silent. They chose the wrong witness. If this story meant something to you, if it made you think about who gets underestimated and why, take a moment now to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter, and the next one might make you see the world differently.